Our final panelist is our wonderful new friend Ashka Naik from Corporate Accountability, and we've just finished a writing project that's relevant to this campfire, which we hope will be published any day. And Ashka's going to talk more about how we tackle food injustices from the source by shining a light on industry tactics. Thank you, Ashka.
Thank you, Susan, and hello, everyone. So having the honor of going very last, let me get to the point. It is time that we fight for the right to food, right to nourishing, life-enriching, local economy-generating, fair and healthy food. This also means that we fight off the rights accrued by big food corporations, by their intense global corporate political activities that have made the ultra-processed food industry a multi-billion-dollar machinery with revenues larger than the GDPs of many nations. So we are a global campaign organization, and we expose and challenge the UPF industrial complex that is costing us entire ecosystems at this point, lives of humans and other species, and systemic erosion of sovereignty of land, water, and natural resources, with the harms concentrated in the global south, where the supply chains of the industry converge. So it is not surprising that just like the pesticides and many such ills, many roots of the UPFs can be traced back to another industrial complex, the military one. Much of the food processing infrastructure of this industry was originally underwritten by federal contracts for provisions to feed the troops during World War II. So a review of 52 studies reporting on the environmental impact of UPFs concluded that the production of their ingredients, the pesticides, their manufacture and distribution is responsible for up to 40% of diet-related energy use, of all diet-related energy use, up to 45% of total diet-related biodiversity loss, much of that again in the global south, up to a third of total diet-related greenhouse gas emissions, land use, and waste. Now, only the consumption of sweetened soda, just the sugar-sweetened beverage, uses 33.6 million kilograms of nitrogen fertilizer and contributes to nearly 5 million tons of metric tons of soil erosion. So the impact is colossal of these products on the entire existence of not only our species, but our non-human species. And the public health impacts are shared by others rather well. Another recent paper shed light on how half of the leadership of positions of multi-stakeholder type initiatives were held by UPF industry executives and their business associates, with the potential to robustly influence the politics of food at the international scale. We have also been tracking this interference in several policy spaces in the US, but also at the UN. There was another study published last year and called Behind the Creative Destruction of Human Diets, which identified that to reverse the UPF dietary transition, we will need substantial changes to the structural and regulatory conditions so that the public and the planetary health are intentionally promoted and incentivized, while activists like us continue to take the brunt of industry intimidation, and industry often showing up as NGOs, publishers, and even academics. Anyways, I'm sharing these studies here also because they themselves are solution in a sense. Independent science is an urgent solution. For far too long, the food industry, just like tobacco, as mentioned a couple of times, has attempted, and in many cases rather successfully, to influence science on food and nutrition across the world. It is time we safeguard scientific inquiry from any real or perceived influence of the industry. So such critical pieces of investigation continue to enter our public domain, and then eventually the realms of law and policy. And we have been working on this front with others for a couple of decades now. So food is deeply political, and many rays of hope exist on this front now. We are already familiar, and if you're not, you certainly should look this up with examples of Chile, Brazil, Mexico with their victories on banning or regulating the marketing of and sale of UPFs in different community settings. In addition, the fifth International Congress, the Conference on Chemicals Management that just concluded in Germany yesterday, ended with a historic decision adopted by governments to develop a plan to phase out highly hazardous pesticides and chemicals, several directly related to UPFs and their production chains. Now, academics have monikered UPFs as the tragedy of the biological commons. And indeed, they have been as such. But instead of accepting a defeatist sort of narrative, I would like to conclude my intervention by reminding us of how a small, quite poor community in northern India, where my roots are, kicked out one of the largest UPF corporations in the world from their backyard to secure their water future in this case. They organized, they were beaten up, they were imprisoned by the state for their resistance, but they fought. And the world's largest sugary drink company had to close its door, where it was extracting hundreds and thousands of liters of water from aquifers that belonged to the community to make its ultra-processed product that it tries to convince us is the root of all our happiness. And I'm fortunate that the leader of that protest has become a friend who shared with us that this was not only a question of who had the power and who could win, as both of these were against them, but a question of whose survival was truly at stake. So I leave with the hope that new friendships will emerge from this community today, which will help foster a future away from food production and consumption that sort of oozes with violence and destruction, and toward a future where food is an emblem of peace with ourselves and nature, and of not merely surviving, but collectively thriving. Thank you, Susan. Back to you.